It's one awfully full Volvo wagon. All right, next project's about to begin. Hello and welcome to episode 65 of Throttle Stop Garage. All right, in episode 64, we got the flanging put on the doors in order to start making these molds. And in episode 65, I'm going to go through the process of getting these molds made. So there's a bunch of new techniques, new fabrics, new materials, and new ways of doing things coming up. So stay tuned. All right, in previous episodes, I've looked at lots of different ways of making molds in order to get fiberglass parts made. These are probably some of the most advanced molds that I'm going to try to attempt to make. So there's lots of different techniques that have been floating around in the comment section. So thanks for that. I'm going to try to implement some of those in this particular mold making episode. So if you've watched my other mold making episodes, I do think this one's probably going to have, I don't know, the most advanced techniques that I've ever tried. So we're going to use a couple of interesting things. We're going to use a fiberglass fabric that's over 1 kilo per square meter. That's 38 ounces for the American viewers. I have no idea how that's going to work. We're going to be using, again, different fiberglass materials in order to try to get the mold built quickly to make a good, strong mold. I'm really hoping this is going to be a high quality mold. And in this episode, pool noodles. Anyway, one of the viewers suggested that I could use pool noodles in order to create reinforcement on the back sides of my molds instead of using the cardboard tubes. And I'll tell you what, I'm out of cardboard tubes, so we're going to be forced to try pool noodles. Okay, so part of the fun that we're going to get into in this particular mold making effort is I now am in the unenviable situation of having to deal with whatever it is that I have in my garage. So in Canada, at this point in time, we're pretty much closed down. Everything is shut. I can't get a lot of different materials, or I'm having difficulty getting things shipped, or it's taking a long time. So we're going to use whatever it is that we have in our garage in order to get this particular set of molds made. All right, well, I managed to lose the footage of the first Gelcoat application, but you can see I've used the black Gelcoat once again, and it all went on really nicely. Now, I've used the roller to do the application here, and you're going to spot a couple of errors that I make with the roller. So the orange Gelcoat goes on as the second coat. Now, you see where I poured it on there? That little spot? Actually had a problem because I had a little bit too much gel coat applied in that area. So I've had a couple of little gaffes with it, but it rolled on pretty well. I think I'd actually brush it in the future. I don't think it really made a whole lot of difference to the actual overall quality of the mold. And I did get a few little tiny pinholes resulting from the texture in the gel coat. All right, so the surfacing veil goes on next. We prime the mold first with the mold making resin. So this is a special polyester resin that it doesn't go off as hot as a regular polyester resin, and it gives you a little longer working time, and it doesn't shrink as much. I would try to pronounce the name of it, but let's just forgive each other for getting that all wrong. Anyway, so the strategy for this, by the way, is to work on those areas that you know are going to be most difficult first. So that area up around the window opening with the complexity of the added piece that's going to form the return for the panel eventually. I know that's the hard area. The big flat area through the middle of the door is easy. So don't waste time when you're doing the application of your materials. So you work out where your problem areas are first, attack them first, because then you still have lots of time. So then on top of that, the surfacing veil, in order to avoid print through, so you don't want to have the pattern of the various fiberglass cloths that you might use print through. So we're going to use some chop strand mat. Now, I'm not a big lover of chop strand mat because it's itchy and hard to work with, but this is a fairly heavy chop strand mat, and it actually worked out really nice. So I was happy with this. There it is. This 1185 Isophthalic, something like that resin. This is the stuff. You don't want to use just regular polyester resin when you're making molds. So again, I'm working that area around the window because I know it's going to take a little bit longer to do. And I've got my integrator, so we're rolling it on. We've already primed the mold again with the resin, and then we add the chop strand mat on top of that. And you're always going to try to put 2 layers of mat down at one time. So you put the first layer down, and then you put the second layer on top, and then you just sort of you integrate the two to try to get the resin ratio right, because you don't want to have it really resin rich. You'd like the fibers to be the primary support here. So you don't want to have too much resin. And the fabric will, the extra layer of chop strand mat sort of absorbs the excess material from the other layer. So you have to work it all in. You've got lots of time with this stuff. Like it was taking, relatively cool in the garage, and I don't mix it to be overly hot. So it went off in about half an hour or so. So it was, pretty reasonable working time. Actually, I wasn't stressed out doing this. You're just sort of, plunking away and getting this done. Rolling it in, getting rid of all the air bubbles and getting everything nicely integrated, nice and flat down to that surfacing veil and picking up all the details. And then squeegeeing around and making sure you've got just enough resin. So I've got the messy pot full of resin there, and I'm just touching up any areas that are not sort of equal in terms of the resin amount. And then once that's done, you're going to let this layer, actually, I let this one harden off because there's just no way to keep going and going and going. Sometimes you do that when you're making fiberglass molds. You just sort of keep applying the layers in consecutive hits, but that also does build heat. So I'm trying to have a very low distortion on this particular mold. So after the 2 layers of chop strand mat comes the massive fabric. I was getting conned into doing this by Jake. He kept telling me, order this stuff. It's great. And I'd look at the numbers and I'd think he was insane. I did put 2 layers down. You can just, I left the sound on so you can hear it cut. Listen to that. Like, this is thick material, over like almost 1.3 kilos per square meter. This is I didn't think this was going to work very well, to be honest with you. I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, we'll give it a try. Other than the chop strand mat, this is the easiest material that I laid. It was unbelievable. I was absolutely shocked. So I got a part line there. This is the first layer going in. I'm extensively, whenever I'm putting fabric down, I'm always using the sort of Bondo spreader squeegee, and you're just squeegeeing it in. Again, you're trying to hit those optimal ratios for the amount of resin, for the fiber weight that you have. This stuff was gorgeous. I just couldn't believe it. It was so nice to work with. It just laid in perfectly. It's not expensive for what you get. And then I followed it up with 2 layers of the twill. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, hey? So on top of these 2 layers, now you can see there where I've done some grinding, and that's just, if you overlap the really heavy stuff, you're going to get an edge there. So I just sanded those out. And then the 2x2 twill went in. I just wanted to try it as a fiberglass cloth, and it was harder to work than the big heavy 1.3 kilo stuff. This was tougher to do. I did put two layers down at one go, and then again with the squeegee, just get it all squeegeed out and get it all squeegeed in. So by the time we were done with that, again, super happy with the way this all turned out. This was going really nicely, actually, for a day or 2 worth of fiberglassing. You'll notice that the mask is on, so full PPE here. But I have run out of gloves. I did manage to procure a set of gloves in town, but when I was doing this fiberglassing, I was right out. Like, I was having to reuse my last pairs of gloves. You'll see those blue gloves. They sure did get a workout. That's the same pair the entire time. And there was other things I am run out of completely. So the other thing we can do, I did buy the pool noodles in advance of the shutdown. I can't imagine how awkward that would be, going into the store to buy pool noodles. Like, that's worth it at a time like this. Right, so the second layer going on here, again, you can see the idea. You're going to squeegee it in to integrate it up really nicely. Get that all pressed down really tight to the surface. This is sped up, again, considerably, obviously. I am taking my time to make sure that all these areas are going in really well. So couldn't have been happier with the way this laid in. All right, next up, pool noodles. couldn't tell you. I mean, again, I thought this was not going to work, and it worked flawlessly. I tried to put them in initially with the hot melt. I have no hot melt glue left. These are the last 2 sticks of hot melt glue that I have, so I am not going to continue to use it. It wasn't working. The hot melt glue was melting the pool noodle. I have no idea what pool noodles are made of. Someone can fill me in the comment section. But I took the pool noodles and I just used packing tape, and I taped them down onto the surface. Of course, they curve to the surface really nice once you cut them in half. And yeah, I coped the joints and got a little nerdy with it, but whatever. And then I've actually put on 2 layers of chop strand mat, and then I overlap in the corners. So those corners are going to have like 4 layers at least of chop strand mat. And I wet out the mat first, and then I let it sit for a sec while I'm busy doing it. You can't really see that as obviously in the video stop motion. But you just sort of let it sit and then dissolve the styrene, and then it just flows in really nicely. Okay, so I did that. I doubled it up. I just didn't show all of it because what's the point? So the pool noodles absorb quite a bit, that first layer. I was surprised at how much resin they absorbed. So not as good as here's a little bit going on. Not as good in terms of application as the cardboard tubes, which absorbed almost nothing. So they ended up with a little bit extra resin, and I was right out of resin. Like I didn't show it. I actually did do some video of it where I was like dripping the last drops of resin as I'm getting the last of this reinforcement done. It was pretty crazy, but I had exactly enough. Okay, so now it's time to flip these things over and see if we can get them unmolded. Really looking forward to seeing if this is even possible. They're getting heavy, I can tell you that. So we added quite a bit of resin to get the reinforcement in. But let's see if I had my Wheaties today. Oh yeah, forgot about those pieces. I'll try this at home, folks. I'm an untrained, non-professional. Good Lord. That's not light. Woo! A little easier to do this way. The part that I never show is the part where you have to actually cut all this up to get it in garbage bags. Somebody for sure is going to tell me I have to use air right now. For sure. And yet I have no idea where the air would go or where I would insert it. So remember, this top piece is all ups and downs and dips and doodles, so it's kind of tough to work with. Yeah, there's a bit there that's still stuck. It's not like it's sticking up. We can do that. Hold on. Just give it some gentle taps. Nothing big. Boy, when it goes, it's gonna go. I got feelings about this one. Like, I know it's up. Like, this edge here is popped, so that's good. It's not a release problem, it's just the two things are so tight, it's a suction problem. Like they're not stuck to each other. They're just sucked down like crazy. This is always the way. That worked. There you go. Yeah, you can see it now. Just a few taps with that hammer. It's not. I know you're watching, so. There it is. Okay, so I just saw this whole side break free, so. And there it is. Woohoo! All right. I should have thought of this first. Where am I going to put it? That's the first look. That looks perfect to me. All right, last piece. We got to get this wood out of here. Silly wood. Why are you still in the mold? Get out of the mold. Nice. Okay, that's door number 1 done. The bad news, still got door number 2. It's like a Hands movie today. There's no room for you guys in here. All right, so door number 1's done. Now it's time for door number 2. Don't forget to take the tools out of the door before you try to flip it over. Okay. I keep forgetting that I have those sitting there. It's not light. Not even a little bit. All right. Zero problem. Hey. But there's a few errors on these edges both times. Like right there, right on the very, very edge. I'll zoom you in and show you here in 2 seconds. So my guess is I've just got a few of these little wrinkles. They're always right at the edge. And it's in the gel coat, but they're just little negatives. So there's nothing to do now other than to clean those out and then fill them up with a little bit more gel coat with a bit of the air dry in it. So that's a wax that floats to the top of the gel coat.
and that'll allow me to repair these tiny little areas. I'll show you some video of that and get this mold 100%.
All right, now it's time to get those edges cleaned off. So I started in with the grinder that's battery powered, and then quickly decided to move back to something that's powered by electricity. That worked way better. Then a little bit of 60 grit or 80 grit, sorry, on the dual action sander just to tidy up all the edges around the sides. Both molds get done here. And I'm not really too worried about making a mess because, boy, the garage, you wouldn't believe the mess that's in my garage right now. Like, this is... It's well, beyond epic, shall we say. Spring is just about here in Canada, so it's going to get cleaned up. But I thought I'd actually show you. I said I never show you the process, but what the heck, right? We're all at home in lockdown, so we might as well enjoy having some fun. You got to cut up each little piece of all of that garbage. Actually did make it into one giant garbage bag, and I hope whoever was going through my garbage last week enjoyed looking for that, right? That's quite funny. So to fix the small surface imperfections that I have on the molds, I've got a small carbide. It's a 1/8 shaft carbide ball, so it's 3 millimeters, and the ball's probably about 4 or 5 millimeters. And all I'm going to do is just very carefully go in and touch those spots with the ball, and that'll create a nice little crater for me, and I know to stop before I hit the orange tooling gel coat. So I'm just gonna basically cleans the hole out, the little imperfection, and make sure everything's going to be okay. So I'm gonna try to film this, but it's hard to both do it and film it at the same time, so we'll see if it works. So we're not really dealing with very deep imperfections, just a few little spots here and here, and then a couple along the edge. There and there, and this one big crater here. So we've got those all ground out, and now we'll get the gel coat mixed and get them fixed. Okay, so now I've mixed up a little bit of the black gel coat, the tooling gel coat again, and I've added a wax additive called air dry, which allows this to harden in free air. Normally gel coat doesn't do that. Okay, so we're just going to go in and touch up all the little areas we need to touch up. Be as neat as I can when I'm doing this. It's probably not necessary to be that anal, but why create work? Right, so with that little acid brush that I've just trimmed down to a fine point, I'm dabbing all the little areas in there that need a little bit of touch up. So it was mostly the one mold. The other door, this is the passenger side door that I'm working on. Really no issue with the driver's side door. Just a couple little spots on the driver's door. But this one had quite a few of these areas. So I'm not too sure why I'm getting this wrinkling between these gel coat areas. So the black gel coat's wrinkled. I think it was the over application of the orange. I think I got it a little bit too thick. Okay, there you have it. That's a wrap, folks, for this episode. You can see the door mold has turned out great. They actually are very, very nice. I'm going to zoom in and give you a show and tell here in a second, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun. Like it's heavy, but not too bad. It's certainly not as heavy as the door, but oh my, is it ever stiff. So utilizing the different materials, like I can't make this mold move I'm going to regret doing this when I have to actually pull the carbon fiber out of it because it's so stiff. But I am super happy with the way these turned out. No problems at all with the pool noodles. So we're good to go. Just a few little errors on the gel coat. And that was me applying it with the roller. So anyway, I took the suggestion. Somebody said apply it with a roller. I tried it. I actually prefer the application with a brush. Anyways, thanks for joining me on this one. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Should have just set those up.